Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Answer is Yes podcast, where we will explore the cause and effect of just saying yes in your everyday life or in business. I will dig into topics that are not just stimulating, but will challenge you to be better in everything you do. The podcast is based on the simplicity of saying yes to opportunities you might encounter every single day. I'm your host, Jim Riley. Join me in my first series titled Blue Collar Redefined. Hello and welcome to the Answer is Yes podcast. My name is Jim Riley and I'm your host. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate the support. I mention that every week because we are so grateful that you have taken the time to listen to us and our guests. And we continue to strive and try to bring some of the best people to you and hear their interesting stories and how they said yes to opportunities in their life. And it just continues to go on. I've got some really good guests coming up in the near future, and I'm excited to announce those to you. But in the meantime, I've talked about Baja United, my business that we started last year through a crowdfund campaign helping the orphanages. We do talk about that a lot on Mondays. And I've also talked about my Spartan racing and what's happening there. I want to change up my topics a little bit at the beginning of these shows because right now, and I guess I always have been obsessed with what I'm going to call the in-between. And I've been very fortunate in my life to do some great, fun, and exciting things like race off-road cars, and currently I'm doing Spartan races, and just a lot of other fascinating things I've been able to do. But, it's neat to receive the accolades, and I really appreciate when people recognize for doing something, or you win that podium or that trophy at the end of a race. But what's not often talked about is the in-between, and I think that that's important for so many people to understand what the in-between looks like. Maybe you see the beginning, hey, I'm going to go do something, and they're talking about it, and they're excited about it, and then you see the end, maybe they won the race, or they got onto the podium or something, but it's really about what happens in between those 2 points that I'm excited about. It's almost like in racing, it's between the silt and the stars, or silt and the finish line. And I'm going to start talking about that, and I'd love to hear from people about their in-betweens. And today's guest really is about the in-between, and I can't wait to introduce his story to you. But in the meantime, it's just like my Spartan racing. In the beginning of the year, at least the first quarter, I was ranked number one in the world for men over 50 in the competitive series, which was a great place for me. I was excited about it. And my rankings have changed throughout the year. I've taken some races off. So I think I'm at 14th right now, which I'll still take, by the way. But the in-between is what the hard part is. It's outside of that ranking, outside of that post that I put up where I'm excited. It's the treadmill I just got off of for an hour and 30 minutes and knocked out 6+ miles. And also knowing this afternoon I'm going to get back out there and I'm going to run 20 laps on the track, speed laps. And tomorrow I'm going to get after it again, and the next day and the next day and the next day, and all the hours putting those miles. Right now I'm putting in about 70 miles of running and then 3 hour-and-a-half days in the gym with strength training, grip training, things like that. And that's what I'm talking about is the in-between. So I'd love to hear from more people about their in-between. And with that being said, let's talk a little bit about the guests that I have on today, because I am so appreciative of our public services, whether that's our police, our fire departments, our paramedics, our military. And by the way, if you're in Southern California today, the fires out there are just horrific. I don't live anywhere near them, but all I can see is smoke out my windows. There's a nasty haze out there. And as Southern Californians, we certainly know what that means. It's fire season, and there's a lot of people out there contending with these fires. So very appreciative today and always for the firemen out there. Thank you for your service. In today's case, we're talking about military service, and we're talking about somebody that spent their career in the Army and suffered some tragic fates. And I want to let my guest, Travis Mills, tell you his story firsthand. But I will just say up front that I am appreciative for Travis's service and all the others in our great military, giving us our freedoms that we have here in the United States, and we stand behind them. So let's hear Travis's story, and we'll reconvene afterwards. Hello and welcome to the Answer is Yes podcast, and here we are today on a Wednesday, and I just wanted to introduce my guest. I'm thrilled to have him. His name is Travis Mills, and he's on the line right now. Hey, Travis, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here, and fortunate opportunity to be able to hash things out and tell you guys my story and see how everything's going out there in the world.
It's such a pleasure to have you on the show today. As I talked about pre-show, I'm just such a pro advocate for our military and everything that you guys have done. So I will say it right out front, thank you for your service. I appreciate it. I know all of America appreciates it, and we just wouldn't be as fortunate as we are without people like you. So thank you for that, sir.
Well, hey, I appreciate it. I really didn't do anything special, just a bad day at work. Didn't fight any harder. But, it's a true privilege and an honor to be able to serve, and I was grateful to do it. And, now I'm taken care of by because of my military background, and I'm very thankful that the government is there to help me with my pension and things now because of my service. So just excited to have done the job and just, what we're going to talk about. But the unfortunate thing that happened, it could happen to anybody.
Yeah, sure. So when I was young and getting out of high school, I was trying to make decisions on where I would go, for the next big step in my life. And I talked to my dad about it. He had been a sheriff, and he had also served time in the Navy. And I said, Dad, I'm thinking about going to the military. And he was really kind of burnt out on it. And he was burnt out on being a sheriff, too. And I wound up going a completely different route. But I know that would have been a major decision in my life that you had to make coming out of school. So can you tell us what that was like, or what encouraged you or inspired you to join the military, whether that was out of high school or college?
Yeah, so I went to college to play a little bit of football, and then when football season ended, I realized I was only at college to play football. My grades were not where they needed to be. I didn't like being in debt. I didn't enjoy the fact that I was paying so much for an apartment, going to a community college. And I just thought, there's got to be something different for me if I can't focus now. And then I went ahead and went the route of seeing all the services, all the branches, and the Army really resonated. Plus, the signing bonus could pay back the debt that I was in. And, it was just an exciting time to go into the military when they were right in the midst of 2006, right, heavy into the war. And I thought, let's get in on this. Let's try something. I'm an adrenaline junkie, but this way I can actually make money, and my college when I get out will be paid for. So within 2 weeks I was signed up at MEPS and going out after I got back from college in March of 2006.
Wow. Were you still living at home, or were you out on your own by then when you signed up?
Well, I was on my own at college, and then I moved back to my parents' house, and then they started having rules like you can't be out this late, you can't do this. And I'm like, I have my own apartment. What are you guys doing here? And then I just realized, it's time to spread my wings and fly. Not that I didn't like my mom and dad or being at home. It was really nice, but I just thought, I don't enjoy college. It's not for me right now. I can't focus on anything, and I just don't want to pay for this. So, not that college is a bad thing. I just thought, let's try something different. And I went to the Army, and they showed me some airborne infantry videos, and I was like, I'm hooked. I want to do that, and I did.
So is it like, because I live in the concrete jungle out here, I don't even know where a recruiting office is, but is it you just rolled down to the recruiting office and stepped through the door, and they threw the cell job your way as far as what branch of the military to be in?
They were actually, the recruiters were sitting in a hallway at the college.
Oh.
And I started talking to them. Then I went down to there, and the recruiting center was everybody. They had Coast Guard, Navy, Marines, Air Force, and the Army. And I tried talking to the Air Force, but they weren't taking too many people at that time. And they didn't really have anything that really enticed me. And then I talked to the Marines, and I talked to the Army, basically. And the only thing that the Army had to offer that the Marines didn't was really the signing bonus. And I was like, you know what? Not that I'm money hungry, but I need to pay back that college debt.
Yeah.
So and the Army was a great choice for me. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I believe if I wouldn't have been injured, I'd still be in the Army today.
Huh. Wow. So you go home and tell your parents, what did they say?
Oh, they were not pleased, and they were like, get something out of it. I had an uncle that was in for, he was in for about 10 or 12 years, and he was like, the Army's great, but let it work for you though. They were telling me, do this job, you can get a journeyman's card, or do this job, you can da-da-da. And I was like, yeah, guys, that sounds great, but I just want to be infantry. I just want to kick doors in and jump out of airplanes and see how it goes.
Yeah, well, we need people like you to go do that. So you go in, and where'd you do your basic training at?
Fort Benning, Georgia. I went to Fort Benning, Georgia, and I got there, and the drill sergeant started yelling at me, and I was like, "Oof, we're not in Kansas anymore, even though I'm from Michigan." And we had 14 weeks of basic, because the basic turns into infantry training afterwards. So we did that. Went to Airborne school right at Fort Benning, and then I ended up at Fort Bragg in North Carolina.
So all those things, and I hate to refer to movies, but all those things we see about drill sergeants yelling and jumping out of planes and all that stuff, that all really happens.
Oh yeah. And they weren't like, "Hey, how are you guys feeling today? Tell me about your homes. How's your mom doing?" No, you did what they wanted. And you know what? It's good. They had to break you down, make you be disciplined, and build you back up, and make you feel like you're invincible. And I wouldn't want to go back to basic training all over again and relive it, but after you go through it once, you realize it's just a game. You got to play the game. It's all going to end.
Yeah.
And it's just about the training. So it was good, bad, or indifferent. It was good. It was good. It was worth it. So when you talk to people that have been in the military, they all have the same stories. Their basic training was the hardest. They, did the best PT scores, and they build you up so you feel like you're 10 feet tall and bulletproof.
Yeah, of course. And I'm sorry to hash over this, because I know this was a long time ago and it might seem a little bit trivial, but there's so many people out there that just don't understand what it's like to join the military, what you go through in the beginning, like basic training, and what that feels and works like for you. So I appreciate you sharing some of those insights. So after basic training, what happens with you guys from there? They start assigning where you're going to be and all that stuff?
Yep, they start telling you what unit you're going to, and then you get broken down into all the units across the nation. And I ended up being able to – I had an Airborne contract, so I went to Airborne school, and then I got to pick out of the 4 Airborne units which one I wanted, and all my buddies were going to the 2nd Airborne Division in North Carolina. And I know my mom was like, "You should go to over to Italy in the 173rd, like get some experience out of it." But I took the route with my friends, and then I got to Fort Bragg. And 22 of us went there, and 21 of them went to 1st Brigade, and I went to 4th Brigade.
Uh-huh.
So all my buddies were in a different area, and they all went to Iraq for their first deployment, and I actually went to Afghanistan.
Not quite in the same neighborhood.
No.
What does it mean to be in the Airborne Division? How do you describe that division as opposed to like infantry or something else that's out there?
Well, I mean, if you ask me, they're the greatest ever invented and created, best division around, and all of the branches. But that's what they tell you, and that's what you believe. But the Airborne's, they're one step above usually like light infantry. So there's mechanized infantry that will ride on, tanks and Bradleys and things like that. Then there's light infantry that will go, like up mountains and walking. And then there's the Airborne infantry, which is still light infantry, but your ability is to deploy anywhere in 18 hours and jump out of airplane to insert yourself into the combat. And, they don't really use that tactic right now because we're not fighting a conventional army like we were in World War II.
Yeah.
But we use it, we stand ready to answer the call if we do get into conventional warfare. So, we have to wear red maroon berets instead of the regular black berets. And I don't know. It's just there's a sense of you take pride in what you do because you're part of the Airborne and the history of it. If you've ever seen Band of Brothers or movies out there like that show the Airborne infantry units and how they fought through and they jumped out of airplanes with the you just know that you're part of something special. Yeah.
Well, to be honest with you, I never really knew the difference. So thank you for explaining that. So now you're getting your deployment. You're heading off to Afghanistan. What thoughts went through your mind, or what were your expectations on your way over there?
Well, I mean, I was pretty fired up. I was excited. 19-year-old, getting ready to go over to Afghanistan, and I was working for a colonel as his personal security detachment. So, I got to ride in a Humvee every day and go out, and I was a gunner for 6 months, and I took my own Humvee over for the last 9 months, where I was in charge of the truck. And it was pretty regular. We go out every day and meet with the government and the people in the area and see how things are going. Come back, go to the gym. It was. There are some jobs in the military you sign up for where you're going to be living great, and other ones where you're not going to be living so wonderful. In the middle of nowhere. But my first deployment it was awesome.
Yeah. Now you've had several deployments over there before your accident. How many was that?
I did 2 full deployments, and the third one got me.
Okay. Well, with that as our background, let's hear a little bit about your story and what you mean by the third one got you. What led up to that, and what were you doing just prior to the accident?
Yeah, so, I'll backtrack a little bit. So my first deployment, my medic, I met his little sister on MySpace because she sent a friend request.